It's synth cap. It's synth cap. Roland's JX-3P was released in 1983 between the Juno 6 and 60 series and the Juno 106. It was released in conjunction with the Jupiter 6 and has more in common with the Jupiter than the Juno series. The 3P has two digitally controlled oscillators, which can be independently controlled and combined in 6 voices. This is much different than the Juno series, which only had one oscillator and relied heavily on the chorus to get a big sound. 3P stands for Programmable, Preset, and Polyphonic. Programmable meaning that features of a synth can be edited, preset meaning that there are sounds that were already on the machine, and polyphonic meaning that you could play more than one note at a time. These 3 features were very enticing because of Yamaha's new invention, the DX7. The Yamaha DX7 brought over a lot of people that normally wouldn't go towards synthesizers. It was just an instrument that they turned on, hit a preset, and everything was ready to go. There wasn't a lot of turning knobs and pushing up and down faders and things like that, things that pianists don't want to deal with. The 3P had a less hands-on approach than both the Juno and the Jupiter series to compete with the Yamaha DX7. The DX7 was very difficult to program, and it didn't have a lot of options as to tweaking sounds. So Roland thought that players would gravitate towards synthesizers that were less intimidating. Although this forward thinking on Roland's part was a great idea, the DX7 ended up winning out. And ultimately why is because of the 16-note polyphony, which at the time, having more notes to play was extremely expensive. The Jupiter 6 is just 2 oscillators less than the Jupiter 8 and was half the price. Another interesting fact about the Roland JX-3P was that it was one of Roland's first synths with Midi Connection, and in fact it was one of the first synthesizers ever with a Midi connection. The MIDI it sends though is very primitive. MIDI at the time was very new and they were still trying to figure it out. It only has a note on-off function. The programmer doesn't send MIDI either, and in fact the programmer and MIDI function cannot be used at the same time without a third-party upgrade such as the Kiwi mod. For this reason, using the synth with a computer is very limiting. There's a new synth in Roland's Boutique series that emulates the JX-3P called the JX-3. This synth, however, is completely digital, and for this reason it does not sound the same as the original. It is, however, a great alternative if the 3P is out of your price range. The JX-3 is much more mobile than the 3P. It has full-range MIDI functionality, and it has software support from Roland. This is a great alternative, but once again, it's not the exact thing. The pros of the 3P are that it's cheaper than the Juno series. The voice chips are more stable than that of the 106. There are 2 oscillators. There's an amazing sequencer on it. It's a very unique synth, and it has beautiful pads. The cons of this synth are that it lacks bass, and I always want a more full sound out of this synth. It needs a MIDI upgrade to be fully functional with a computer. The programming is super difficult without the PG200 programmer, and the presets aren't that great. While I don't think this synth is the end-all be-all, I do think that it has its place, and it's a very interesting and wacky and weird and inspiring synth that may be for you.